Good evening. My name is Jim Mahoney and I'm the Vice President for Development. I'd like to welcome you to the annual Bob and Jean Locke Freely Community Lecture Series. Obviously, we are coming to you virtually this year, but nonetheless, we are excited to share with you another wonderful event. Before I introduce our next presenter, I wanted to share with you a little more about the husband and wife this series is named after. When an anonymous donor told us nearly 10 years ago that he wanted to sponsor an annual community lecture series on our campus, there was only one condition: that they name the series after Bob and Jean Freely. For those of you who may not know Bob and his wonderful wife Jean before she passed away in 1999, they have been gifts to the Adrian community. Both Bob and Jean attended Adrian College in the 1940s. While in college, Bob enlisted in the Navy and was called to duty after finishing his sophomore year in June of 1942. He served the Navy until the end of the war and returned home with the intention of completing his remaining 2 years and majoring in business administration, only to find out that Adrian College did not have that degree yet. Dean Rush, a vice president at the college at the time, offered to call Albion College, knowing they had a business program. Bob was able to get in right away, and he and Jean both graduated from Albion College, but they always fondly remembered Adrian College. This lecture series is a gift to Adrian College and the greater community, and we are honored to have it bear the names of Bob and Jean Freely. And now I'd like to introduce Jennifer Carlson, our Director of Alumni Relations, to continue this evening's program.
Thank you, Jim. Hello, everyone, and thank you again for joining us for tonight's Freely Lecture Series. Tonight's event is called the Bulldog Bistro, an evening with Chef Andrew. We have a fun night planned for you, and as Jim mentioned, I'm Jenny Carlson, the Director of Alumni Relations. It has been a unique, almost 2-year experience since I've taken this role at AC, and I'm excited to get to know our alumni and friends. Hopefully we'll be planning in-person events soon, and I can't wait to have you guys there. We have a lot of great ideas coming out of our office. With the help of the Alumni Board, we will have great news to share with you in the near future. Now, back to tonight's event. We are thrilled to be partnering with Sodexo chef Andrew Johns. Chef is going to bring us a delicious meal, but also show us the steps and how to prep this meal from your home. Before we get this program started, I would like to introduce a special guest. Tonight we have sous chef Docking.
Hello everybody out in Freely Speaker Series land. This is sous chef Docking here, and the reason I know that is because it says it right here, sous chef Docking. Now we are so excited to bring everybody together without really getting together for this cooking demonstration. As Jim and Jen just said, we've been thinking, what can we do this year that brings everybody together, has something fun going on, reminds you of Adrian College. We thought, what better way to do it than with food? Now, I'm going to bring you in on a little secret that you may not know. People like to complain about college food. We have the best college food in the country right here at Adrian. And one of the big reasons we do is because of Chef Andrew.
Well, thank you.
This is the man right here who gets it done every single day. Now he's going to make something special tonight for you to watch, and you can copy it at home. And I have absolutely no idea what he's making. So Chef Andrew, what are we making tonight?
Sure. We're going to do a salmon with a citrus beurre blanc, a wild rice pilaf, and steamed baby carrots. And what we're going to do, we're actually going to break down a whole salmon. I'm going to do that a few different ways for you. I'm going to break down one into a full side, and the other one I'm going to break down into the loin and the fillet separately.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Can't wait. My mouth is watering already just hearing about it. Now this is the first time that I've ever cooked in the midst of a global pandemic. And this is the first time I've ever cooked. I mean, I have no idea what I'm doing, but I can add the salt, add the pepper, do little things that the chef wants, and we will have a great time. So join us and let's have a great Freely Speaker Series this year.
We're going to start this night out with a specialty cocktail. I would like to introduce Nick Moorhead. He's our general manager of Sodexo on the Adrian College campus. He is going to show us how to make a sidecar.
Great, welcome everyone. Every great meal has to start with some sort of complimentary beverage. And in this case, you have a lot of choices. You could go with a simple white wine because you're having seafood and it would match well. You could be a little adventurous, go with a light red because you are having salmon, it's not as fishy, it's a little bit more substantive. But what we're going to do now is we're going to take a classic cocktail and we're going to make it our own. We're going to make it match the meal that we're serving. And what we decided to go with was a Sidecar. Sidecar has really mysterious origins. Because it was started right around the Prohibition, the American bartenders claim that they started it and nobody knows about it. Over in London, Pat McGarry's claiming that he's a famous bartender. He claims that he created the cocktail. And then the New York hotel in Paris is also claiming they created it. Whoever created it, they did a great job. We'll stick with that. And it also has the name's great because they don't really know where it's coming from. The main story on that is, when a bartender pours, they end up with a little bit extra in their cup here, so they'll pour it into a cordial, they'll put it next to your drink, and that's your Sidecar there. The other story, which I prefer to believe, is there was an American Army captain who was showing up to the hotel, and he was always ordering the same drink. He'd show up every time in the Sidecar of a motorcycle. So you have this gruff Army captain showing up, getting a pretty feminine cocktail, drinking it and leaving it, and they called it the Sidecar because he was not drinking and driving, he was riding in the Sidecar home. So this cocktail comes from those origins, and we're choosing this because there's a lot of options in every ingredient you start with. The classic Sidecar is just your lemon juice, your orange liqueur, and either brandy or cognac. The main difference between brandy and cognac being that cognac comes from the cognac region of France, whereas brandy can come from almost anywhere. It's made from fermented fruit juice, and in most cases that's wine because that's our most popular fermented fruit juice, but you can have apricots and other flavors there. We are going to add a little bit of simple syrup to it because it can be a very sour cocktail, and I'm going to show you how we start this out here. Typically you would make one of these in your traditional coupe here, which is your martini glass. I'm actually going to go with the new glass that's out there. It's called the Vinotini. You have the option on one side of having your martini. We're going to use the Vino side here. It can be used for both red and white. It actually looks really cool, so we're going to start with that there. So what I'm going to do is, you should already have lemons cut because you need them for your lemon juice there, but we're going to take this, we're going to just rub it along the outside here so we can sugar the rim. And then once we get in there, we're going to do our best to keep everything out of the inside of the glass. Roll the sugar along the outside here. The sugar is going to have a couple purposes. One, it's going to knock down the tartness of some of the other ingredients in there, and it also looks very cool on the side of the glass. So we'll start there with that. From here, I've actually made my own simple syrup. It's very easy. It's exactly the same recipe as hummingbird food. So it's the same portions of sugar to water, and in this one we've infused it with some rosemary. So after you heat up your simple syrup, which would be equal portions of water and sugar at a low temperature, dissolve the sugar, and then you throw in your rosemary sprigs. And in those rosemary sprigs, leave them sit there. Put them in the bottle with there. If you got the right bottle, it looks really cool. You can keep these out of the fridge for about a week, in the fridge for about a month, but you don't want to keep them for too long there. For this one, we are going to use just a half ounce of the rosemary simple syrup. And that's going to go in your glass here. And then we're going to move on to fresh squeezed lemon juice. You can use store-bought, but fresh squeezed obviously always better. And then that, I'm going to do 3/4 of an ounce of that there. So we're going to get that loaded up into the drink with spilling as little as possible. And now your next step, you actually do have another set of choices here. So if you don't want one that's very, has a lot of alcohol in it, you could actually forego going with orange liqueur or triple sec and go straight to freshly squeezed orange juice. If you want one that's a little more alcohol content, you can go with a triple sec, which is around 20% alcohol content. Or you could go with the traditional Cointreau, which is an orange flavored liqueur, comes from France as well, and that taps in at about 40% alcohol in that. So we're gonna make it strong this time, but you can choose to make it as you want. On this, I'm gonna go with the same 3/4 of an ounce. We'll go 3/4 of an ounce of the Cointreau here. Pour that into your glass. And then your last step is going to be either your brandy or your cognac. And for this, you're going to want to use a full 2 ounces in your drink there. So we're going to go ahead and do 1 and 2. All right, let me grab a set of gloves here for the next step here. This is a drink that would be shaken. You do have a lot of options with this in the fact that you don't have to serve it neat. You can serve it on the rocks. You can serve it however you like it. Like I said, we're playing around with this cocktail here. We're having it match up with the food. So, take your time and figure out how you want to serve it here. We are going to add ice to our cup here. And then we're going to try to look cool while we shake a cocktail. So, 8 to 10 seconds on your shake here. Back in your cup. This is ready to go. This next step, completely unnecessary, and I don't recommend doing it at home, but it is something you could do if you have good homeowner's insurance, is I'm going to put a little of a high-proof liquor in the bottom of the glass here. And the goal here is we really want to kind of caramelize some of the sugar on the outside of the glass. So we are going to light this on fire. Of course. All right. So we are going to light this on fire. So get that fire going in there. Roll it around the glass a little bit so we get the sugar warmed up. And then as that sits there, we're going to take a rosemary sprig, put that right on top. Take our shaken Sidecar here. Go ahead and pour that in the glass. There. And last step, we're just going to take orange here. Going to cut off a little bit of the peel. Twist that to get the oils from the orange in there. Toss it in your glass, and there you go. It's a contemporary Sidecar with a twist.
All right, Jennifer, this is alcohol. This is during work hours, so we're going to ask all trustees to please step away from their computer, and you and I are going to cheer to a great night. Enjoy, everybody.
Very good.
Hi, welcome back to the kitchen. I'm Andrew Johns, the executive chef here at Adrian College. And tonight I'm going to show you how to break down a whole head-on salmon, and then we're going to make a nice little dinner for you. All right, this is our salmon. It is fresh Atlantic. As you can see, the head is on. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to run our scaler over it real quick. Although this did arrive scaled, there's always going to be a little bit towards the belly and at the top that we want to make sure isn't there. Scales are the worst thing for your knife. They'll dull the blade and they'll skew your cuts. So we're just going to run that over real quick. And as you can see, some is still coming up. And we're just going to take a towel, nice dry, and wipe it down to make sure we get all those loose scales off of there. And then the first thing you're going to want to do when you're actually cutting into the salmon is to remove the head. And we're going to use a fillet knife for that. And the reason we use this knife is it's flexible and it can get around all those tiny pin bones and things like that while we're cutting. So take the head here. And we're just going to go straight side to side and take it off. So here we go. I don't know if you're going to be able to see me well, but that's okay. And now we are also going to take this collar off, but you want to do the head first. That way you're not damaging the other meat. And then the next step, we're going to remove the collarbone. So you can see it right here where the fin is. You're going to go underneath that. And hook up right to that side. Same on the other side. Underneath where it is. And once you get to the bone, you're going to have to give it a little snap. And there you go. The next thing we're doing is we're going to remove all of the fins. We're going to use kitchen shears for that. The next part of the process, what we're going to do is we're actually going to remove the tail right where it meets right there. And the reason we do that is that the tail is always a bit tougher on the meat, so we use it for different applications. And it's also going to make it a little bit easier for us to get to the loin and the fillet. So once you do that, if you're going to actually use this in service, we're not today, but you'd come down, take the tail off as well. And then you would skin it just like you were going to do with this one. You would take it right here where it meets and would go over and out. But we're going to show you on the big one, so let's not waste our time. All right. As you can see, the spine is right here, and this is where all the little bones are going up. So we're going to separate it into two different sides. You want to start on this side, and when we're doing it from this, we're going to angle our blade down away from the meat to stay onto the ribs. That way we're not cutting into the fresh meat. You want to hear those snaps? That's what we're looking for. And then we're going to take this all the way down. And with our knife, we'll just do a nice little swoop there. And then obviously we're going to trim this up, and we're going to separate, on one of these we're going to separate the belly and the loin. The other one we're just going to do fillets. Same process, we're going to go here, except this time we're going to angle our blade down to stay on the spine again. And you want to hear those snaps on those pin bones. You also want to be touching the inside of the meat as little as possible. That's how you're going to bruise your meat and not get nice cuts. As you can see, this is a nice even sheen. There's nothing broken, nothing indented there. And we want to try and do that with this one as well, which is a little bit trickier, but I think we'll be okay. Now we're just going to go one straight swoop all the way down. And this one is going to look a little bit rougher at first, but trust me, we're going to clean that right up. So as you can see, this is actually all extra skin we're going to take off. This is where the pin bones are located. We should be able to get those off nice and smoothly, but I do have my tweezers just in case. You don't want to have to use these though. So I said this one we trimmed it a little bit more because we're actually going to separate the loin and the belly. We're going to get the rest of those pin bones off. As you can see, they're right here. We can do that one of two ways. We could actually use the tweezers. I'll just show you that. And pull them out one by one. And they'll slide right out. You just want to make sure you're going with the meat. That way, here, I'll show you. Don't do this. If you pull it out, see how that one's now torn and broken? The flesh won't look as nice. So we could do it that way, take them out one by one. Or we can sacrifice a little bit of meat to save a lot of time and just trim them. See how we're underneath all of those? That's what you want to be. And just take those right out. There you go, belly and loin. Set those aside. And this is more what you'll see at a restaurant. They're still going to trim right where this diagonal is. Get off all those nasty pin bones. And then they're just going to go straight into fillets. And there you go. All right, we're going to start our first side dish, and we're doing a wild rice pilaf. So we have here our wild rice and our white rice blend. We're going to go ahead and put that in. And we're going to add our butter, and we're going to let this toast a little bit. We have here our diced carrots, diced onions, and diced celery. And what that is that's actually called mirepoix. And it's the basics of French cooking. It's 50% onion, 25% celery, and 25% carrot. We're also going to add our pecans, which are optional in case you have any nut allergies. Not all of these, just a few nice little scoops. And our cranberries. A little bit of salt. A little more salt. And a little bit of pepper. Once that gets going, we're going to add our chicken stock. Just there. And we're going to bring this to a boil, and then we're going to set it aside, and we're going to cover it with our pan right here. And we'll come back to that when we're ready to serve our dish. We're going to be working on our second side dish. We're doing the butter basted baby carrots. And I've already blanched these, which basically means I used boiling water, got them to they're nice and soft, and then I shocked them in ice water so they stop cooking. The reason I did that is if I were to cook these from raw in a butter basting, the butter would burn before we'd have a chance to actually flavor the carrots. All right, so we got our pan nice and hot. Add our butter. Hit them with our salt and pepper. And now we're going to baste them. We wanted to start before the butter's all the way melted for the same reason as why we blanched it. We don't want it to get burnt. We're not trying to make brown butter here. We want to get that flavor. While the rice is cooking and the carrots are basting, we're going to go ahead and sear our salmon. All we're going to do is put a heavy sear on one side, light seasoning, because we're going to finish it with a beurre blanc. Then we're going to put it in the oven at a holding temperature. This is not a 350-degree oven. Once it's hard seared, flip it over straight into the oven for about 5 to 10 minutes while we're finishing up our sauce, and that'll give you the nice translucent, a little bit of translucent pink in the middle of the salmon. Here we go. First, get your pan nice and hot before you add your oil. And then let the oil heat up before we add our salmon. So while we're doing that, we're going to put our salt and our pepper on top of our salmon. We have that on a really high heat. You want high intensity for a short amount of time. That way we're not really cooking the innards of the salmon, we're just crisping the top of it. All right, then once you get that nice hard sear on there, we're gonna go ahead, use our fish spatula, flip it the other way, and we're gonna finish this in the oven. Look at that nice golden sear on there. And that's what you're looking for. All right, now we're gonna start our beurre blanc. What we're gonna do is we're gonna get our shallots. and add those to our pan. We're going to hit it with some white wine vinegar first. We have lemon juice. Lime juice. And orange juice. And we're also going to do about 2 cups of white wine. And then we're going to let this simmer until we get it almost all the way reduced before we start adding our butter. So as you can see, we've reduced this down, and what we're going to do now is strain this right out of here. Because we don't want to bite into the shallots or the peppercorn once we make our sauce. This is the good stuff. I'm going to turn our heat back on. And now we're going to very slowly add our butter. We're going to start with 1 cube. And what we're doing is called an emulsification, because there was vinegar in our starting sauce and now the butter together. And as you can see, it's actually thick butter. It's not just going to be melted butter. But if we add the butter too quickly, it will break and you'll have 2 separate consistencies. So we wait till it's all the way melted before we add our next piece. And once we get a few in there, then we can go a little bit faster, but the beginning is the very crucial part. We're at the point now we can start doing 2 at a time. Gonna hit it with a little salt, a little white pepper. We don't want to do black pepper in this one just because of the coloring. All right, and then we'll go check on our salmon. And now we're ready to plate. Here's our wild rice from earlier. And our carrots. And finally, our salmon. And we're going to finish that with our citrus beurre blanc. And there you go.
Thank you again for joining this year's Freely Lecture Series. We look forward to the day to bringing you all back on campus. Until then, stay safe.